Talking on me before you got here?
A little bit.
Okay. I like to do social. Social's the way I'm building relationships with people like you guys. So all my social stuff's up here. Most of my stories and most of my funny, entertaining stuff is done on Instagram stories. And trust me, I tend to be the class clown. I've learned to have a lot of fun in this business. So I'm going to actually. Anybody mind if I take a selfie? No?
Good luck with that.
Any of you remember these phones back
Oh, yeah.
in the days?
Oh, yeah.
This one's actually kind of funny. I bought it off Amazon. You can actually insert a SIM card and do text messages and emails from it. As funny as that is.
That's great.
Hey, Paige, can I have the phone so I can take a picture up here? Oh, I got one of these too. Remember these? 911, hello, fun stuff. I actually started in the business with both those things 20 years ago. So, selfie for me today. Everybody say hi.
All right.
Hi.
All right, cool. All right, very good, thanks. Paige is my master project manager of all of our social and all of our stuff and things like this because I've lost my creative edge. So she is the go-to person, and Josiah's around here somewhere, a media guy. So just smile for the camera if you don't mind. Hey, today is something that is important to me when we go through this, is that you guys understand a little bit of my story and why I've gone to this point of tattooing the word limitless on my forearm, and it's also tattooed on my wife's inner forearm. And here's what I want you to understand, is that there comes a time when this business, you want it to become fun. And I found myself and my family, my mom's here by the way, and her fiance Todd, welcome, found myself chasing things and not enjoying the business anymore. And I also found myself realizing that if we don't shift our mindset in what we're doing this with investments, with wholesales, with different things, we can't provide the solutions that our clients need. So we're just going to kind of walk through some of this stuff. There's going to be different strategies. I want to talk to you. I want to address something that's near and dear to everybody's heart, and the word that people are using a little bit on the, a little too much, I would say, is the word disruption. There is nothing disrupting our market right now. Stats yesterday from Tina Tambor was the Zoo, Zillow, OfferPad, and Open Door are making up about 6% of the market. That includes buy and sell. So when they buy, when they sell in those months, it's not that big of a deal. In fact, they just put a sexier spin on it than home investors did 20 years ago. They've been around that long, buying stuff. So they're not a disruption. I can tell you the disruption or the evolution of our business is that we've evolved faster than most people were prepared for. We've evolved into, you look at what Amazon's done to the retail industry and the online type thing, and Amazon was definitely a disruptor, but as they evolved, people like Toys R Us, Babies R Us did not evolve fast enough, therefore they had problems. Same thing with us. Right now, we need to look at our evolution as real estate professionals rather than just being the typical realtor that's been around for the last 50 years. Because up until, I would say, just after the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac debacle and the foreclosures, everything was about being a realtor. Everything's about the 6% commission, the different things. If you look at the evolution of where we've gone to, it's about how can I guide the consumer or the client to the best solution for them rather than being commission-based or commission mindset and looking at what is the best solution. So that's really what I want to touch on and give you guys some different strategies and some different things. And one of my big pain points for real estate agents that comes from a very, very personal story, which I will share. How many of you have actually invested in real estate or own real estate other than what you live in right now? Okay, that's a good sign. So I will tell you a little bit more as to why that is a pain point for me, and I want to make sure that you guys have the mindset of understanding the investment side. Here's the pain points typically. We're uncomfortable with change. We don't have, or we have the mindset that we don't have money to invest. We don't have the opportunities like we were talking about. Where do you find the wholesale deals? What does it look like? Your income is limited. Old school real estate rat race. Everybody's competing against everybody rather than trying to really really be that person there, like I said before, to guide your client rather than trying to show them how many transactions you've done and really be the hero. We just don't know what we don't know. It took me a couple of years when my dad got sick a couple of years ago to really figure out there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know that if I tweaked it, it would be awesome. And I want you guys to walk out of here understanding that you are not just a realtor. You guys are in this business because it's the best industry in the world to be in. And to be perfectly honest with you, it's one of the industries that has the most opportunities for you to build wealth and build income both now and long term. What we forget to do is we're chasing commissions and chasing dollars on a daily basis that we forget about our future. Because real estate, unfortunately, we don't have our 401ks and those types of things. The other thing is we don't know how to invest. This is something that I have found that is very, very interesting amongst real estate agents. They don't have any knowledge on how to invest, but you'll be the first person, or we will be the first person to sell somebody an investment property without having the proper knowledge to give them. So my commitment when I started coming out of this in 2014, 15, I wouldn't teach anybody or sell anybody anything I hadn't done for myself. So I can experience the pain of losing money on a flip. I can experience the pain of having a $12,000 sewer line go bad in a rental property. I've experienced all those things. But I also has been able to prepare me to help people understand what they're about to get into so that they don't make those big mistakes. Most people, when they become landlords, it's accidental. Or somebody sold them the pipe dream of all the appreciation and all the things, and the tenant's going to do this, and then when they start getting bills and they start getting tenants that leave, they weren't really told all the true story when it comes down to it. Building your wealth, every one of you, I want you to understand that you are first in this for you, and you need to represent you first. Clients are second. Okay, I watched this in my own family for a long time. The home runs would come in, they would get sold to an investor for a minuscule amount of money. The investor is making 10 times what it was sold for. You have all the knowledge, and you're welcome to share that with your clients. But that knowledge needs to be utilized for your wealth and your long-term wealth and your family, first and foremost. As we talked about, learning to evolve with the perceived disruptions in the market. How many of you think that I'm still able to purchase homes at 60 cents on the dollar? Right? Yeah. Okay. 2 weeks ago, we purchased one at 40 cents on the dollar. Nice. The people had not been in the house in 16 years. They had not turned the front door handle. They are still out there. It is literally just the relationships. That lead actually came from my carpet guy. Hey, I got a buddy. Nobody's been in the house 16 years. Need to get rid of it. Wrote him a check for 50 grand. I'll let you guys do the numbers later, but I wrote a check for 50 grand. The house is at 12th Street in Indian School. So they're still there. You just have to find them. And you find them by learning that your audience and your customers, if they don't know you can provide those opportunities or those ways out, you're not going to be that call. They're going to call Zillow, they're going to call OfferPad, or one of these wholesalers is going to get a hold of them first. So don't let your lack of mindset hold you back from how do I do this if I come across it. You say yes to everything and figure it out later. That's what it looks like. Learning to overcome objections and just develop that mindset of no limits. I never thought if I told you 3 years, it'll be 4 years in December that my dad passed. It'll be 4 years in December that my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I never could have told you 4 years later. Well, hold on. Continues. These are people from the past. This is what perception is here. We don't want to be these people. Mom, I'm pretty sure you got a glamour shot.
Oh, no.
So, when I get to the next slide, I never could have told you that 4 years ago we would have acquired over 400 properties. We currently own 35 rental properties, and my wife and I have flipped 450 homes in the last 4 years. Didn't know anything at the time. I didn't know how I was going to do it, what it was going to look like, but it evolved, and it kept evolving, and we just kept doing different systems and hiring different people. And there's opportunities that you guys are missing just because it's not there, because it's always the commission and the drive rather than the solution. So I really want to kind of break everything over here. There's a plug here. Okay. 52 years in the business. My grandmother and my mom on the left. My mom and dad in the middle there. 2005 in the height. We were a family team, and we did 700 units that year just before the crash. And then in 2007, we were broke. That's my wife and I now, currently. My grandma, she was one of the first licensed real estate agents or real estate brokers in the state of Illinois. And we had a lot of fun at the end. I used to show her how we'd receive faxes on my mobile phone and things like that. So she'd been around the business forever. But we used to have a lot of fun with her in the real estate. She'd tell old stories, and so good times. The choice right now, and if you guys listen to the water cooler talk in the offices, is everybody's talking about Zillow, OfferPad, Open Door. And then the conversation this week has been 3 meetings, 200 plus people. There's people that all of a sudden have the Chicken Little mentality that the sky is falling on the market. And it's not there. We are, if you look at the Cromford report and you look at the ticker tape up, it's doing very well and it's very steady. The problem is that the fake media and the news, they are causing problems with our consumers. And here's what I would challenge you guys to do. You really should be looking at how do you help your clients understand what's going on in the market, and you do that through conversations. You do that through information. One of my greatest regrets in 2006 when the market started to crash was I didn't pick up the phone and start talking to people. I was scared because the market was going down. We had sold people houses. They were upside down. There was no solution base to the conversation I was going to have. So instead it was bury your head in the sand like an ostrich rather than running at full force and trying to provide value for them. So I encourage you guys to start having those conversations with clients. We're still working with people right now to invest in rental properties. We're still showing them how to do it. I still believe in the rentals. There's just a certain way to do it, and you just have to look at how you get them there. You know, for some people, income is not necessary on their rental portfolio right now. They have good income. They need write-offs, and they need to invest, but they're not being shown how to do it, and nobody's talking to them about it. You'd be amazed at how many people that we meet that just don't know. Like, hey, grab somebody by the hand and show them what investing in real estate looks like. It's created a lot of income for us in the rental side. I don't know how many properties on a regular basis we add to my mom's property management company, but that's the whole deal with it. It's just looking through that. 100% focus on the solution. Screw the problem. The problem doesn't exist unless you let it exist. So just keep focusing on what is the solution for the client. Here's some of our stats. My wife on the left, she has a $150,000 a week spending problem. We currently run between 20 and 30 projects at a time on any given basis. Our margins are much tighter right now because of the prices, but it's very, very feasible to get in if you want to into the flipping game. It just takes some work and some time and some patience and some money. Last couple of years, more than 300 families either sold or bought from, and that crew in the middle manages my crazy because I have a little bit of crazy squirrels running around my head that sometimes can't be controlled. The way we got to where we're at, again, was by not having limits to what we can do. Most people, when you talk about this, it's a money thing. If you get a deal, where do I get money, right? Well, when we started teaching our investors how to build wealth by being hard money lenders, we've never used a regular hard money lender. We've gone back. How many people in here know 5 people that probably have $100,000 in their bank? Okay. Those are people that we go out to and we talk to and we start teaching them, hey, you know me, love me, trust me. Will you invest with me? Will you allow me to make an impact on my family and my future and our communities by doing this? Right now, we have about $15 million in private capital. That is all deed of trust. It's all single lender per house, and we just go through it. We give them an 8 to 10% rate of return, depending. We have some clients that invest with us out of their self-directed IRAs. Just different ways that people want to invest in something that makes them feel good. And our clients can walk into our office and they can see the before and after pictures, they can see the families that we've sold the homes to, and they love to invest with us because they get that feel good. And they get to go, in fact, we had an email the other day, a client of my dad's, the last flip he did turned out really bad. We went in and salvaged it, Wendy did. And since then, he's probably loaned us collectively probably $3 or $4 million over the last couple of years. He sent me an email on Friday. He says, hey, I just want you to know how proud I am of you guys. He said, I drive by on a regular basis the houses that you guys are renovating and the impact that you're having and the solutions that you're providing to people that needed a way out. And that's pretty impressive when you get in your investors that get to go drive by their investment and see the progress. And that's what's made it fun for us. Again, these guys are not threats. And here's why I say that. They operate in a box, right? Same thing with real estate. A lot of times we're taught to stay inside this box. And I'm going to encourage you to get out of the box. You can look at the box from afar, but get out of the box because that's where everybody else is operating from. These guys, they all operate in a box and they all have investors to appeal to and have to answer to at the end of the day. When you have the ability to see a client, which we do a lot of, and walk through the process of what did you want to net? What was your ideal net price out of this house without having the commission conversation, without having the value conversation, really getting down to what their goals and their targets are. Last year alone, we bought 16 listing appointments at the table because people didn't want the stress and they needed a longer period of time to get out of their home, or they needed to sell the home and just have a simple solution to go be able to buy something knowing that theirs was sold. And it's amazing the stress level that you do for your clients. And it's funny that Marnie's here today. That's a great house. It's actually one of our projects right now. After I spoke last time, Marnie came out and she says, hey, my client has a house. It's 3,300 square feet. It needs to be gutted. And we walked through the process with her client of what she needed to move and make it comfortable. So Marnie's client had a cash offer sitting there while she got to go look at houses. No stress. She got 3 or 4 weeks to move afterwards. It was easy. No big deal. Marnie got paid. We got a project. Her client got moved. And she got to be the hero at the end of the day. It's about outside the box thinking. These guys can't do any of that. They can't help you with the house. They can't help you with the purchase. They can't leave you in there. None of them will buy houses with tenants in them. That's been a big thing for us. We bought a lot of houses with tenants in place because the tenants help us cover our hard money costs, gets through your FHA flip rules, those types of things. So it's a great way to start holding and maintaining those types of things. So here's what I want you to imagine. This is my dad and one of his investors. And they had a great relationship. And when he passed, the investor, when my dad passed 3 years ago, this September, my dad passed, the investor took his portfolio and went elsewhere. But my dad worked his ass off for the last 5 years of his life for this man. And my dad had a job. And so I encourage you guys to not let your clients make you into a job, especially on the investor side. This is one of the reasons that I kind of went down this road, because I realized, and imagine this, being 40 years in the business, I think my dad spent around $35 million at trustee sales from 2008 to 2012, acquiring more than 700 homes during that time. He bought more homes than just about anybody down there. Built this gentleman's portfolio to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 million right now is probably what it's worth. Rented it, started the property management, worked. At the end of the day, my dad was so consumed in the dollar that he got from each deal that he never once bought anything. So imagine being in the business 40 years and passing without owning a damn thing in real estate for as genius as he was. That scared me. That shocked me as I went through his business and we started breaking things down and I started going through the process of why did this happen and what did it look like and what can I change. So this was all born out of pain and born out of carrying on my dad's legacy because my dad loved to teach and loved to coach people. Excuse me. And this was really important that real estate agents understand that, hey, I need to be investing in myself as much as I am helping my clients. If you have not read this book, I highly advise it at this point in time. It's a great book. In fact, if you guys have business cards or have signed in, I'll use the sign-in sheet as drawing. I've got my 3 favorite books that we actually base our business off of right now to give away. How many of you have read this? Okay. So him and Haw are the little people with Sniff and Scurry, the mice, that live in a maze. And every morning they take off and they get into the cheese room. And they start getting comfortable over time that the cheese is there every day. Well, Sniff and Scurry, the mice, would constantly go and they'd check it out. What's going on in the market? What's going on in the cheese room? What's it look like? Him and Haw started to lackadaisically go there, just sit down and start eating their cheese, going through their process. Until one day, him and Haw get there and there's no more cheese. And him is pissed because he didn't see it coming. Like a lot of us were in 2006, where you're going, where'd all the cheese go? Well, we're sitting in that market right now where the market's come up. We've all made some really good money. But I don't want everybody to turn around and look at where'd all the cheese go? Because it's being eaten up. And if we don't prepare ourselves and think about the market moving, where we're going, and staying ahead of it, we're making plans right now. We're looking at different things. We're looking at different markets, trying to make sure that we don't get caught off guard like we did in 2006. Because what happens when things are easy, you become lazy. So, really important. I would read that book. It's a short read. It's a little tiny thing. Yeah, Toys R Us should have read that book because Amazon tanked them single-handedly on the retail side, without a doubt. And so you kind of look at how change happens and anticipating change. So right now, would you think that a lot of us are trying to anticipate change because it seems a little slow right now? And it's like, well, what's happening? Is the market changing? Actually, the funny thing about it right now is that the market is doing the same thing and repeating the same cycle it has for the last 4 years in July. It shoots up like this to July, and it tapers down off to the end of the year. So don't anybody freak out right now because the sky is not falling. Monitor change. Right now, we're monitoring a lot of stats. We're monitoring what's going on in neighborhoods, trying to make sure that we're not making any big mistakes when it comes down to the flips and the things that we're buying and our long-term strategy of investment. And by monitoring that change, you give your clients the benefit of giving them that knowledge and talking to them, and as you see things, it should bring up conversations that you can have. A lot of us did not adapt to change quickly in 2006. For any of those that were in the business, and then through the REO days, everybody was trying to adapt, but we just weren't doing it fast enough. Change. Enjoy the change, be ready to change again. It's a cycle. This is where the evolution comes from. This is also where I would say right now, the disruptions that happen in the market are 18% interest rates in the 70s, savings and loan crap, which the savings and loan debacle in the late 80s, early 90s is very, very interesting. One of the biggest ones was here. When the feds were loaning money out, they were actually shorting the interest rates out, the savings and loans were. And there were a couple of savings and loans that were almost $100 billion upside down. And it cost the taxpayers just a boatload of money. And most people don't remember that. And I remember it. You know why? Because I remember cleaning out stinky refrigerators in HUD homes and REO homes when I was a kid. So I do remember it. But there was no adaption. So those are disruptions. You know, the Fannie Mae, the foreclosure, that was a disruption. What we're seeing right now, not a disruption. It's just an evolution. It's my wife's favorite quote. Your thoughts definitely become your reality. Your perception becomes your reality. What you perceive the market is doing kind of becomes your reality. If you start looking at things that the market's not very good, those types, you can go out and create the change that you want and the income that you want by having the perception that there is numerous things that you can do on a day-to-day basis that is not just doing the old school mentality, right? So we look at what everybody talks about. It's funny. So, like I said, 50 years in the business, my mom and dad used to go to Mike Ferry's Sweat Hogs. Mike Ferry used to teach, go drop the listing paperwork on the front door and tell him to sign it, you'll be back to pick it up. That was the old school of like burn and turn. There was no relationships when it comes down to it. And so it's interesting when you see all the people that are coaching, they're still coaching to the same thing. Calls, leads, numbers. Versus, again, another one of my favorite books. It's called Ninja Selling by Larry Kendall. It's actually, he wrote it, he instilled it in his brokerage called The Group in Fort Collins. And I very much believe in this, is that we are in a market right now where our evolution is not in the speed to lead mentality. It is in building the relationships by adding value. If you don't have relationships with your clients, they will go to the Zillow, they will go to the offer pad, they'll sell their house to somebody like me. Because there's no relationship, and if you can't add value, they don't have any reason to call you back. So on a regular basis, you can have 2,000 people in your contact, in your database, but if you're not regularly contacting them and keeping a relationship with them, it's going to be really hard to go back to them a year later, 2 years later, whatever the case may be. Just because you sold them a house 2 years ago doesn't mean they owe it to you. Yeah. So that ongoing relationship, that's what they talk about in that book, Ninja Selling, is I would rather have 100 raving lunatic fans that I'm having lunch with, that I'm talking with, that I'm hanging out with, than I would have 2,000 people in my database. So we have just kind of turned and gone back to the basics of I want to run a relationship-driven business because they're looking for my guidance. They're watching me on social media, and they're going, oh, that was funny. That was fun. I like the personality. I like the different things, and we all have that ability to do that right now based on who we are. This was the house at 12th Street Indian School. 16 years. I did find a 1972 Hustler in this house. It was in mint condition. It was interesting to see all the stuff. There was original bills of sale from cars in there from 1960, all kinds of craziness. I'm surprised it actually lasted through the ravaging of REOs during the day. So what most of you see here, if somebody called you over and said, will you list this? You're going, where do I sit? Well, I don't want to talk to you about this. My mind is instantly, where's my checkbook? And if you don't have a checkbook, write the contract and figure it out afterwards. Because trust me, you find the deal, you'll find the money. If you can't find the money, call me. Solution-based. Gloria needed time. The conversation I had with Gloria when I walked in the door, which most of us, and I don't know how a lot of people do their listing appointments anymore. I totally fly by the seat of my pants. Gloria flat out told me walking in the door, she's like, I need you to make this easy. I don't care about money. And I don't know when I can leave. Because she's waiting for assisted living house to be ready in Minnesota. Nobody could have offered the solution for her that I had. So I gave her the deal. We went through it. It included 7 months of free rent. I'll take care of the repairs on the house. She's 80 years old. It has original 1970s green shag carpet in it. She says, this house is emotional because my husband, we lived here 25 years. I'm proud of what it is, even though it's not updated. I don't want to hear people's negative thoughts about the house that I was in with my husband. And I want to just be at peace until I'm ready to go. And not to death, but just to her assisted living house. So she's still there. she's now into 9 months there rather than 7 that we originally agreed upon. That's okay. There was enough money in the deal, and I look at her, and like the other week I called to check on her, and she had fallen. So she's a little bruised up, and ego a little bruised, but she was working on it. But she's such a sweetheart. So it was cool to take the stress away from her of these next 9 months of taking care of the house, doing the stuff, and just making that. Most people can't offer that. The wholesalers can't offer it. The zoo can't offer it. So that's kind of what that looks like. These are things that if you ask different questions when you're with people, you'll get different answers, and you'll get to the point of how you can help them solve their problem. And I assure you that some of the solutions that we've provided have been way more beneficial financially than a commission would have been. This house here, Christina, actually came past client of mine. He saw me throwing glass plates in a dumpster at a house that we had just bought, and he thought it was funny. So funny. He says, that looks exactly like my mom's house. You need to go buy it. So his mom was actually, house had been sitting there in Scottsdale 18 months. It looked just like that over worse, huh, Paige? It was terrible. I think that was the first house Paige walked into that she didn't know what to think. It took us 6 40-yard dumpsters to empty that house.
Wow.
And we bought it, we renovated it. I actually did a live P&L on that house last night. That was a simple solution. She was going through chemo. She didn't need the house. She didn't need the money. She just wanted to make it go away and make it easy. These things, you guys will look at this. So think about all the listing opportunities, which I'm sure you guys can think of and look back and go, I wished I would have. Your money is definitely in your relationships, especially in this business. I remember it used to be, back when I first got in the business, you didn't want to share with anybody. I'll share with you any piece of my business, how we do it, what it looks like. The best things I've ever done have been with partners in the business. Some of you guys are in here on the Lawton team. That's Ryan Bannebeck, Chris Medina, and myself and George Lawton out in San Diego for my 40th birthday this year. Those guys have been rock stars when it comes down to relationship for me. George and I partnered on a lot of different real estate ventures. We own some second homes together. Don't be scared to work with people around you. Don't be scared to collaborate with other agents that are in this industry. Because trust me, there's going to come a time when a Marnie walks into your life and says, I need some help. I got this deal. I don't know what to do with it. What do we do? How do we work together? How do we partner on it? So just think about all those relationships. Don't do the second grader thing and put the folders up around your desk and try to hog everything. Because I guarantee you it's probably out on the internet anyway. This is the other thing, relationships. Everything we have with our clients going through, our relationships have been where our money is. Your relationships are going to be the key, not your advertising, not your marketing. Now, when I talk about relationships, it's interesting as I stepped way outside of the real estate business to go to conferences that have nothing to do with real estate this year. I've been to Lewis House, Summit of Greatness, been to a podcast movement, Grant Cardone's 10X, went way outside to see what everybody else is doing in the outside world that I can bring into this world. Because I don't want to do the same thing that everybody else is doing, right? I try to be as super entertaining as possible on social media. Those of you that don't like it or haven't caught on to it, it's actually kind of amazing when you start getting into it and you get over the fear of judgment and you start throwing it out there and having some fun. The calls and the clients and the people that come out of the woodwork and random text message, random things, they start sharing things and laughing at you. That will build on your relationships that you have, even the people that you haven't seen in a while. In fact, we had a great friend of mine, I didn't sell him his first house 10 years ago. Haven't seen him in 10 years. He started following me probably a couple years ago on social. He called out of the blue. Hey, I know you've been doing all the real estate stuff. I'm ready to sell my house and buy another one. Those are the things that kind of happen. They just happen organically. And it's a lot of fun when it starts happening organically. But you got to learn to be yourself. You got to learn to be vulnerable. You got to learn to be a jackass. You got to learn to just have a blast with what you're doing. Because once it shows your personality, people will connect better with you. It's not Don't get on social media to sell anything. Doing the social selling will not work. I guarantee it. People are frustrated. For those of you who are doing it, I apologize if I step on it. People are frustrated when you talk to people. Just listed, just sold. The terminologies that's being used, it's being overused and over pushed down people's throat, and you got to find a better way to do it. Kind of touched on this already. You know, just that's the biggest deals that we've had, the biggest money makers we've had have come out of our relationships. The things that we've had the least profit on or we've lost money on have come from a wholesaler. But the ones that we've provided the biggest solution for our clients have provided the biggest wins. So I'm going to back up to 2006. 2006 sucked. At the time, we decided that it was a great idea to get in the construction business. We owned 7 companies, 75 employees, 25 fleet vehicles. Oh, and we were supposed to be doing real estate too. And that didn't work out really well. Lost our rear ends to no end in 2007. My wife and I, 2 toddlers, house foreclosed on, $1 million worth of personally guaranteed debt, and $1 million worth of cash and assets lost, all very quickly. So the good news is I was 26 and I had this really cool investor that smacked me as hard as he could in the back of the head and stopped crying about it and go do it again, just figure out how to keep it differently. And he was right. So we muddled through. 2008, I was given a chance to do REOs, which was awesome. 2 months later, I broke my neck. I was 50-50 shot of being paralyzed at that time. By the grace of God, we're here. I got 7 pins shoved in my neck, and they zipped me back up, and 6 weeks later, I was back doing BPOs and inspections. It was a scary time. But there was a time that I wanted to just be relentless, and I didn't want to fail my family. At that time, there was no money. We didn't have opportunities. We didn't have any credit. We had lost everything. In fact, we were hiding cars over and over again. Fear of loss, we'd already lost everything. So once you've lost everything, what else is there to lose? We hunkered down and went nose to the grindstone. We were fortunate to get into the REOs. 2012, we paid everybody back. We never filed foreclosure or bankruptcy. And we bought our first house again in 2012. And so it was close to $900,000 that we paid back in debt over that time. But now it was, okay, what's the next shift? The REOs were coming out of it. What's the next shift? So I say that because you're always evolving with the market. We've seen it. If you've been in the business more than 15 years, raise your hand. Okay. So everybody in here has not seen a normal market. You know, I saw it in 99 when I got into the business. And up until 2004, it was normal. Went back and forth. We had 7% interest rates. We did our thing. And now it's the evolution of, as the market shifts, goes back to that, who moved my cheese? Shift with it. Think forward with it. All these things brought me to who I am now and sharing the things that I have with you guys, because 2012 we bought our house, but now the REO is starting to go away and we're trying to transition back into a regular business, not knowing what it looked like. And as my dad, 9 months, my dad passed away, I just started seeing things where I could help more people and be a better solution and do something different. Because I love the business. I love being just who I am. I don't do there's no pictures in here, there should be, of when I first got into the business. Where I was dressed to the nines every day trying to do my thing, but I felt like I was not being who I wanted to be. And so this is who I am now, and this is what I love, and you guys all have that opportunity to build your relationships organically. Be who you are. Don't try to be somebody else, and don't try to take on somebody else's successes. We started to build our business, and I want you guys to really think about this. It's people over profit. It's looking at how I can contribute to help somebody meet their goals and their needs, and going to that place. And it's been a fun road. I don't look at discounting my commissions anymore. I look at it as contribution to helping people get where they need to go, depending on their story and what they need and what we're getting into. Say yes to everything. This is always in the top of my mind. Even yesterday, Jeremy was great. I got a call. I got off the racquetball court at 9 o'clock yesterday morning. Jeremy says, hey, I know it's last minute. I was in Moon Valley time. Can you speak to 100 loan officers at 11 o'clock today? Ooh. Yep, I can do that. I didn't know it was on my calendar. I didn't know what I was going to have to move, and I knew I had to go a half an hour that way and a half an hour back. Same thing with the deals. Say yes and figure it out. Trust me, when it's sitting there on your plate, you'll figure it out, and you'll start working through the problems, start figuring out how to help your clients and help people. Build your own wealth. There's going to be deals. This is one of the things I teach in the Limitless Project, is how to build your buy box. A buy box is really, really important in your investing strategy so that you know what you're buying and why you're buying it. You see, over the last couple of years, we went through the stats and the data and started looking at the 500 properties that at one time Debbie managed, and started looking at what's the ideal property that's going to net me the most amount and not give me as much trouble. And it was interesting to start looking through the stats and seeing, well, why did that guy buy a 4,000 square foot house in Buckeye with 3 AC units and a pool? And it's getting $1,600 a month when he could have bought 1,200 square feet, 1 AC unit, no pool over here, and gets $1,500 a month. So people don't think about all the repairs, all the turnover, all the costs when it comes down to it. It might have been a good deal, but it wasn't a good long-term play. So kind of go through. Create investors. Guess what? You guys all have a sphere, right? How many times have you called that sphere and said, you know what, you got a ton of equity in your house, let's move it. Let's move some of your equity to a rental property and start that process. We're not talking about taking equity lines to go buy boats and cars. It's showing them how to invest in their future. Or vice versa, you do what Paige has done, which I'm kind of proud of Paige because she's a rock star in every way. Last year, she didn't know she could buy a house. And so we walked through the process. And so she bought it with the end in mind. And the end was, I'm going to rent from me for a year, and then I'm out, and I'm going to go buy my next place. So how many people can you think of over the last 2 or 3 years that maybe have bought a lower-end house, and you go back and you teach them, hey, you can keep this and move on to the next house, and it's going to be your long-term. And that's something that you can create the investors in the business if you want to. Same thing with creating the investors in your environment for deed of trust money, those types of things. I know I put you a lot in here, but it's important. This is a career you got into. There's knowledge that you've slaved over having, and you need to put that to work for you. So that's, in a nutshell, this is what this comes down to. I'm very passionate about helping people just like yourselves get to that next level when it comes down to building their wealth and going through those processes. This class is kind of a highlight. Check out my website. It's called the Limitless Project. It's a 12-week course that goes through a lot of this different stuff and a lot of different things that we do and that I want to do. And it's a lot of fun because there's so much opportunity for you. And one of the things that is probably the most critical thing that I want you to walk out of here with. My business is market proof. If it's going down, I'm looking for more money. And people start to become more motivated. So if you guys have the same mindset where you can switch from retail to wealth building back and forth, think about, I don't know, you guys that have been here like 2008, 2009, 2010, I was so dumb focused on the REOs that I wasn't looking at the opportunities that were right in front of me, and I wasn't focused on, oh my God, some of the houses that we went to. We sold 2,000 Fannie Mae properties in that time frame. There were some houses we sold for $16,000 that had 4 walls and a roof. You could have put a fence around it for 5 years and made a couple $100,000. We're so focused on the lack of opportunity rather than creating the opportunities in our lives. So, I appreciate you guys having me out here. Follow me on social. Be happy to answer any questions for you. Hopefully this was super helpful for you guys. And can I have something? Lizzie, can you draw a name or something or point to something on the clipboard? so I can give some books away. She's there. There it is.
Can they ask questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can
Q&A.
I ask you a question
Yeah, let's
in
do
the
it.
book?
Yep.
Okay, this is what I do.
Marty.
So when you buy a house and you redo it and someone keeps it as a rental, do you, I know you're saying you're on this property management? Is that something you promote, or like, is that part of the spreadsheet basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't property manage my own stuff.
Right.
Her company does it. They do an amazing job. I want out. I want nothing to do with that part of it. I don't want the phone calls. I don't want the headache. I don't want to deal with the repairs. Nothing.
So
And it's
public
worth
house.
every bit of it. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you link with financial advisors to kind of manage their money with their equity and other 401ks and stuff like that?
I haven't with any financial advisors. A lot of financial advisors would frown on pulling money out of the market and putting it into real estate, depending on returns. What I do is we sit down and we've created a wealth building blueprint for our clients where we actually go through. It's kind of like when you fill out a bank application. How much is in your IRA? All these different pieces. And it's interesting, the last 4 clients we've had in the office, not one of them could tell you the rate of return they're getting in their 401k. Not one of them. No clue. Money just goes in and it sits. And so we've started going through it and showing them how to roll their 401ks or IRAs into self-directed so that they can invest in real estate, either by doing hard money loans for us, or you can actually buy real estate inside your self-directed if you want to. Yeah.
What's the one story you always have in the back of your mind that you did that was just absolutely amazing, that just, hey, all the solutions went together?
Oh. Cinnabar's probably a good one because it has some fun story to it. Do you guys mind if I tell a quick story? I think I have a few more minutes. It's also some of the stuff to be prepared for because this market, when you get into flipping houses, can be a little on the nutsy side. My wife and I are always carrying firearms for this exact point. So start at the beginning, another agent. I seem to lose about 10% of my past clients to real estate licenses every year. So they're always getting into it, and a great guy. But he had been following me on social media, and he called and he says, "Hey, I got this house, in Metro Center. The lady inherited it. People were there 25 years. I've been trying to help her move stuff out. Like this guy is like trying to help her out, yard sales and all kinds of stuff. He's like, will you come over and look at it? She just wants to get to Prescott. She's in her 70s. And I'm like, yeah, I'll come look at it. So we sat down at the kitchen table with the seller. We went through it, got through all the numbers. Everything was good. We bought the house. I gave her 6 weeks to move. No big deal. And I told her, just leave anything in here you don't want. So she left everything. That's always the bad thing when you tell somebody that. So we went through the process, and it sat for a little while because it was over Christmas time. And I said, I'm going to go try something different. Maybe I can keep from spending $1,200 in dumpsters to get the stuff out of the house. And rainy Sunday morning, I get some donuts and coffee, and I'm going to go have an estate sale and let people take things for free. Little did I know walking into that house that I started walking through, and I started hearing things. So I started flipping lights on, and I'm like, here we go. So I heard something again, so I drew my firearm, and now I've got 4 druggies coming out of different hallways. And so now it's like, okay, where do we go with this? It got pretty tense. It's the first time I've ever had my finger on the trigger. And they actually came out, hands down, on the ground, no big deal. It was actually my most viewed Facebook video because they were actually pretty hysterical on it. I wasn't doing Facebook Live at the time, but they... So I just started asking them their story. I'm like, okay, these guys are harmless. They're trying to find a place to sleep. Just tell me your story. What's going on? Why are you... So I got coffee and donuts out, and I sat on the stoop with them. We're just talking. Like, just banged up, bruised up, dirty people. So I said, hey, here's the deal. It's Christmas time. It's cold outside. You guys can stay here for the next 7 days. Just don't jack up my house, okay? And you can sell anything in here that you want, okay? And sold the pool table. And so I go out and I started doing a Facebook Live out in front of the house going, this was not what I expected on Sunday morning before Christmas. And we get into one room, and I told him I can't need all this stuff out of the house in the garage. So one guy, he's already on it. I get in the room, he's like, "Thank you for not shooting me." He's like, "This guy's awesome." so it was pretty funny when it came down to it. And it took me 4 more weeks to get him out of the house. They kept coming back. One guy had this mental disorder. He kept saying, "Dude, the house is a puzzle. There's entryways in it." I'm like, "Oh man." So anyway, we finally get the house done and completed, I think in April. And it looks great. We get on the market. We get it under contract. My thing, as well as providing solutions for my clients, is working with people like you guys. The thing that sucks is that most people, when things go wrong, everybody gets into a pissing contest. And for some odd reason, our industry, we have superhero capes in our trunk, thinking that that's going to solve the problems rather than trying to get together and figure it out. So the agent called, and he's like, "Hey, we're 2 days before closing. Got a problem. The lender miscalculated the time on job, and they needed an extra 30 days. So my choice is to go through that and be angry, irritated. We've got costs, this, that, and the other. And Erica comes to me. She manages all of our assets. She says, "Hey, I think we can do this." So we went back to him. It was kind of cool because here's the thing that I think of when we flip our houses. We're repurposing a home for the next family. We do a quality job when we do it because we want that family to be just like our own if we were putting them in there. And it was important to us to know that this family had seen it, their kids were excited about it. I knew the time was going to take to get it back on the market. It was definitely a risk, because what if they didn't qualify them on? Everybody guaranteed it, so they paid the rent for the month, we moved them in the next day, and we just hung out. We got it closed like 25 days later. It was about providing a solution, it was about heartstring and everything that you do. And I think that all of us could be a little bit more like that when it comes down to working with our sellers and our buyers and trying to work together on making it happen, rather than this constant fist fight when it comes down to things going wrong. There's things that are out of our control, no matter what we do, right? So the only way you can go about it is trying to find the solution that's going to make everybody comfortable. And I think in our industry, we need to do a better job of working together to come up with a solution for the buyer and seller, even though sometimes it's not comfortable. But it is something where eventually my take on it is my reputation, my company's reputation when it comes down to it, is that, hey, if my sign's in the yard versus somebody else's sign, they've worked there, they would rather go there and they'll lead in that direction. I think all of us can have that reputation when it comes down to it. Any other questions? Yeah.
What's your process when you are about to flip a home?
As far as going through the process, like how our system is?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we buy a house, we never, like, out of the gate, like you see some people, they drop a dumpster and they start tearing it apart, right?
Yeah.
We actually go through, and the process is the first 30 days, it'll sit there, we'll have an as-is price. If some wholesaler investor, somebody wants to buy it, try it. We've learned not to start it until we have a budget. When you start without a budget and an end number in mind, you usually get yourself in trouble. Because the way we do is we process it from the standpoint of what we know we can sell it at right now, not 3 months from now. We don't appreciate it or any of that other stuff. What we sell it for right now, what we paid for it, and what our profit should be, and that's my wife's budget. She can't hit that, then we got to figure something else out. So she has what's in the middle, and so what we do is we really budget our profit first before we get into the renovation. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really brilliant right there. You didn't write it down.
There's a book called Profit First. That's actually what we started doing. It's really, really good.
It's
Yeah.
natural.
You mentioned that you guys lost a bunch of money, and then 2005 you said, and then
Yep.
through REOs, you made a bunch of money back. Are you saying you went directly to banks and you purchased them?
No, we had an account with Fannie Mae, so we got assignments from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and so we just made our money selling houses for the banks during that time.
Gotcha.
It was a good gig. Yeah.
How do you establish a valuation and then know that you're not gonna get in trouble with, what the price is versus how much you can spend versus the comps versus.
No, the evaluation piece is, I'll be honest with you, this will sound crazy, we've done so many of them. I know it takes us about $22 to $25 a square foot, depending on where the house is at, to renovate it fully. Kitchens, baths, all that other stuff. It's a quick calculation on a 1,500 square foot house, costs us 33 grand to do it. And it'll take us less than 45 days to turn it. So your calculations are trying to figure out, everybody has this, we get in the investor world, everybody has this ARV minus repairs minus all this other stuff. Everybody has their different formula doing things. For me, if you send me a deal, I pull up Monsoon and I look at purples, greens, and blues. And I go, does this thing make sense? And can we get out of it for what we need to do on it? And keep in mind too, a lot of our stuff, we're creating inventory. And that leads me to think, you know, if anybody's ever looking for opportunity or something different, you know, we're always looking for talent applications, for acquisition people and for people that want to run our inventory. Still haven't found anybody that really likes to run the inventory that we own. So, you know, you go through it from what you're comfortable with and how much profit it looks like. Keeping in mind, you know, it's kind of looking at it to see. Most of the stuff that we do, we might buy stuff at 80 cents on the dollar. If it's like a paint cleanup, no big deal. And we might make 7 grand on it. It's another commission, it's another sign in the yard, those types of things. But we have the systems in place. If you don't have systems in place, what's going to happen is you're going to buy something like that, and you're going to spend all your time doing $10 an hour coordination jobs and being pissed off at contractors rather than selling real estate. So just be careful on how you get into it. If there's a big spread in it, then it's probably worth it to do it. For me, I mean, we've created a system, but there's no magic key for it. And I guarantee you that any of these guys that you see on TV with their magic flip systems, it's a ploy to get your $4.99 at the end of the day. Because there isn't a magic flip system. I know one of the guys that my dad, oh my God, I cleaned my dad's office out. He had bought every freaking seminar flip junky thing that he could find. And it's funny going back through it because they all seem to think there's a magic formula. And the only magic formula is yours. Okay? My magic formula is my wife takes care of all of our contractors. I don't touch it. I have the superhuman designer / GC in one where, you know, we've all seen the house and we're looking at it like, what dude flipped this house?
Yeah.
The tile doesn't match, the carpet sucks, the tub's in the wrong place. You're like, holy crap.
No
So-
place to put a fridge.
Right. So just kind of keep that in mind when you do it, is that there is, back to the system stuff, the evaluation, you have to find what works for you. The $22, $25 square foot was a good rule of thumb, but we had a lot of data on that to run off of. So now it's kind of going through that process. And most of the stuff that we do, it's changing a kitchen out. We're not moving walls, there's a few houses that we gut and do actual permits and stuff on. They're big projects. We have 2 right now that we're into for almost $200,000 a piece.
So you said some tactical things I think are really important, right? So like knowing your buy box, so like what it is that you would purchase, right? Like figuring out your time cost, right? So how much time can you personally invest in this? Because he's saying that he doesn't invest hardly any of his own time because he has systems and people, right? So if this is your one project, you have to time that in, right? So, and his price per square foot on a renovation is gonna be significantly lower than yours if you're not doing them in bulk like that, because he's doing, how many did you say you have? You did 400 something?
Yeah.
Right, so you just have to know those things. So he had a buy box, he has a system, he has a budget, right? And he knows how much time he's going to spend on it, right? So that's his process, whether he said it or not, sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
So basically, just real
Steve,
quick, you're winning with numbers, because, I mean, you know, out of, somebody buys 10 properties, they're gonna lose on 3, 4 of them, and they're gonna really win on 3 of them, and they're gonna.
You're gonna have a law of average, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, you know, you do enough of them. If you're doing 1 or 2 a year, you're gonna have, I might have lost one, and
Right, then you create addicts, because now you have a guy that's bought 3, lost on 2.
Yep.
Now he's chasing 2 more, and he's gonna try to win on 1 and break even on the
Yep.
other one. And so, you know, we have these zombies out there that are just
Yeah.
creating themselves busy.
I guess I have to wrap up. I can answer a couple more questions while I'm wrapping up.
Did anyone not sign up? Because we're going to do a drawing real quick.
somebody wanted to get started, right, so you have your law of averages and all that stuff,
Uh-huh.
but what do you recommend somebody to start in this process?
The way we started is we actually started with partners. So we had investor partners that had all the money, and we split it 50-50 with them. The thing I didn't like that was I started putting my investors at risk because their name was on the deed. And we had one lawsuit, thank God, over the last, 3 years, where the investor got sued rather than us. We settled out of it, no big deal. So when we started with partners. Rather than taking all the risk on yourself, it was really easy to start with a partner, somebody that we knew. We did all the work, we managed the project, and and we split the profits. There was no commission or anything at the end of it. But it gave us the ability to run through it and learn. And by the grace of God, the first one we did was a home run, and that was a great story. So you just kind of, your best thing to do is look at some of the wholesales, look at some of the stuff on MLS, and start penciling stuff out and seeing, what would this look like? A good rental, would it be? And that's where you do a little bit of both. A lot of the properties that we flipped were means to an end. It was down payments for rentals. It was putting money aside for these things. So that was just income coming in to generate the other stuff that we want to do on the wealth building side. So to answer your question, you start by getting out there and looking at something that's trashed, seeing what it would be, and then kind of walking through that. Yeah.
Are you adding square footage, or are you just working with the footprint you were drawing?
I watch my dad add square footage to stuff, and I don't touch it. The only time we do it, we've done it on a couple, but they're great big projects. And like the one we're getting ready to put on the market in Moon Valley, my wife enclosed, there was like 20-foot ceilings, so we enclosed over the kitchen and moved the kitchen. So we added about 400 square foot by doing that. That's pretty much.
Not much. Because what I'm seeing now in certain areas is that, I used to buy them and flip them and pretty much do that, make them look really good. But now these areas, they're paying market price, but they'll have to add like maybe 1,400 square feet. Now that's some big projects.
That's the fine print on most wholesalers' email. It
Yeah.
says this house ARV is 800,000, and fine print says if you add 2,000 square feet to this 400 square foot house.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you still attend that, Bruce?
What's that?
Do you still attend that?
Here and there, it's hard for me on Monday nights at the end of the day to drive down there because it's an hour drive.
Do you recommend that as a good place to find investor partners?
It's a